Going to call this meeting to order. At least the board is present. I see the staff is still shuffling around getting a few things done. But if you would please join me in a salute to the flag. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll for us?
Yes. Director Nichols.
Yes.
Director Cussworth.
Yes.
Director Heffer.
Yes.
Director Buss.
Yes.
Director Roscoe.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Our next item is special presentations. And before I turn it over to our special presenter, I just wanted to give a little tee it up for him just for a moment. A while ago, I was talking with General Manager and with the idea of, could we have a little bit more of a review of our accomplishments other than just a sheet of paper that says this is what we've done with a little review. And I know there's been a few things in the past that have done that. I said, it doesn't have to be a citywide luncheon or a gala at the Hyatt, but something just a little bit more than what we've been doing. And the reason I was suggesting that is I believe we have some very noteworthy accomplishments that occur year after year. However, for lack of awareness, the public doesn't always know what those are. Now, I presume that's maybe a good thing that they're just recognized that the park district is doing well and the grass is green at the parks and the doors are open at the community centers and they get their programs to sign up for classes on a regular basis and everything appears to be going hunky-dory, but they don't know about all the other things that we are accomplishing. So I thought, well, if we could maybe highlight that just a little bit more. And one of the things that I suggested was not only just to highlight the accomplishments, but can we also elevate the park district, the staff, some of the things that they are doing that may seem routine. And my hope is that this becomes an annual event and maybe with a little bit more added to it. I've even thought of, maybe we have an employee of the year or a partner of the year or a volunteer of the year, or something that gets recognized and start to kind of elevate a little bit with more of what the park district is involved with. Because there's so many things that we do, it just kind of routinely we stamp and approve and acknowledge and recognize, but just goes unnoticed, unfortunately. So I thought whether there's some way we could lift this up. And so I asked if they could maybe put together at least a video presentation of some sorts. And so I have no idea what happened, if it did or if it didn't. So now I'm turning it over to the general manager for him to take it from here.
So, I personally made those PowerPoints that I showed all those years with the static slides. So, I understand that I'm not the graphically gifted individual. So, I of course gave it to our talented rec team, Shar and Juan in particular, and they got a bunch of different photos off iPhones and little snippets of videos that they've taken and they put something together I hope you're going to like. It's only 6 minutes long, but I think it covers a lot of what you'll see in the written 2025 year in review. One of the things, and there's in your packet a couple pages, but one of the things I don't think we totally do in the video that I do want to call out now is really it's the board of directors and what they do and how they are, integral to the park district success. So the last paragraph of that little memo that I had written, page 9, I kind of point out a bunch of the different, local and statewide associations that the board individually participates on a whole variety of things. And I think our focus is on the people who live in the Conejo Valley. After all, their primary source of our revenue is the property tax base. And so we understand who we're trying to serve and focus on. But by participating in these other like local professional associations, even statewide associations, I think it helps us serve them better because we get exposed to and interact with professionals, elected officials in the park world all up and down the state. And really, it's an opportunity to like, oh, that's, you do that too, or we do something totally different, or what a great idea. And so I added that paragraph to probably a memo that you've seen many times before. And then I do appreciate Rochelle getting into the weeds really with a lot of the rec stuff, which is something we hadn't traditionally shared with you guys, but it's a lot of the staff work that happens on the rec side. Because you see Andrew is in here talking about awarding contracts and bids and and a lot of the big contracts. So you kind of see his work, but you don't necessarily see um, all of the stuff rec does. So that's going to be in there too. So without further ado, we're going to show the video. I'll stop talking, let the video speak for itself. It is? Cool. It's Jim Friedel. I'm here to tell you that the management services team worked really hard this year to help keep CRP moving forward. Our folks in HR, accounting and finance, and IT worked hard preparing budgets, completing audits, drafting agreements, updating policies and strategic plans, and learning new tools like Placer AI. And generally, we're helping the board of directors serve our great community. 2025 was a year of strengthening our foundation and serving our community with purpose. So let's take a look.
Hello, Andrew here. I wanted to introduce you to the best of parks in 2025. 2025 is all about safety, stewardship, and keeping our parks thriving, looking to the future for the growing community. Let's take a look at what the crew accomplished.
For this year. One. Oh, much better, much better. Wow. Recreation has done a lot of great things this year. It expanded engagement across the district. We've opened up fresh new program spaces and modernized our website. We hit the road with a new rec band, and Parker, you even had your debut. So much cool stuff. Take a look at the rest.
'25 was truly an incredible year for the Conejo Rec and Park District. None of this would have been possible without our dedicated board of directors, our employees and volunteers who bring passion, professionalism, and heart to everything they do. Together, we've shown how deeply CRPD cares about our community by listening, collaborating, and showing up every day to make a difference. By working closely with our partner agencies, local institutions, and nonprofit organizations, we continue to strengthen the quality of life across the Conejo Valley. As we look ahead to 2026, there's exciting work on the horizon, and we've been energized by what's to come. Thanks for being part of this journey. We can't wait to build our future together.
Very
There you
good.
go.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
much higher production value, much shorter than what I usually do up here. So I think that was an excellent suggestion, and I believe will become a tradition, because I think despite a little bit of probably didn't give enough heads up to some of the staff. I think they had fun. When they look back, I think they'll say that was fun. Yeah, no, it was great. So one of the things we noticed having the holiday parties, we went to that new recognition award for staff, and we're like, why don't we think of the board as part of the staff family? We should. You're doing all the stuff you guys do, and if you unveil your little surprise in front of you, you are now part of that new recognition program that we have. And you're going to get new little blocks to add on more frequently than the staff, because we do 5-year increments, but you're going to get your little
nice.
extra thing in 4-year increments. So every time you're
nice.
elected, you'll get a new block.
Chuck needs a special permit for a high-rise structure.
Wow.
Very nice. How nice.
So
Thank you.
Yeah, we thought that was kind of fun.
Yes, yes.
And
Very nice.
as tradition, the staff, fellow board members have a gift for the chair, because you are the person that was leading the organization that entire year. So we have a gift, and I didn't know if this would be the right time, if you guys wanted to say anything about that first, or just do this and then that. Any preference?
Well, to tell you what I would like to hear from the board, just the comments about the year in review of that. But while you're there, I'll just, you're in charge. This is your section.
All right.
You're in charge of this one. So
I'll let the board comment not only on the year in review in general, but on you as a chair.
okay. All right. Sounds fine.
But one of the things I personally wanted to say on behalf of the staff is, Doug, as chair, we greatly appreciate your attention to detail. I think, everybody knows that that's your role on the board. You're the one that figures out that there is a, wrong verb tense in the document or something. And your analytical mind is super appreciated. One of the things I love about the board is you guys all bring different life experiences to it. And Doug, having spent your career in fire, this was another year where we had to, talk about fire more than we care to, and being able to rely on you for some of the ideas and thoughts about that has been invaluable. Super grateful for that. And just your overall demeanor running a very professional meeting, but at a CRPD scale, little less formal than maybe the most formal organization, but we are professional and we get stuff done, and that's a reflection of you. So thank you so much, Doug.
Thank you.
And we think we got a great gift for you. You're going to have to tell us if we hit the mark.
For sure.
I can't wait.
I don't know, that's a good sign or not.
It's it's not a gag gift. It's a real thing. We like to do useful, like you'll actually use
All right.
day to day more than a.
That's a cute
This is where I
bag.
need the grandkids around to collect all the tissue paper here.
Dang it.
Ah, very nice.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah, all the
Ah.
hip guys at the gym backpack.
Right.
Yeah, what's the brand? It's a 511.
Thank you. Very nice.
That's a yeah, it's a very cool brand
All right. I
these
will
days.
put it to use. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start with the one with the most blocks on the table to my left. Director Huffer.
The blockhead, huh? I just wanted to thank you, Doug, for another great years. This is your second term as chair, and both times, as Jim pointed out, you've kept us on task. You've kept attention to detail, and the background that you bring. Actually, two different types of background. One is working with fire, and as Jim said, been more fire-related issues than we care to have to think about.
Mhm.
But the other experience that you have is your experience with the city and Conejo Open Space, and the perspective that you bring not only to this board, but to the Costco board, and your historical familiarity and knowledge of how open space has evolved over the last decades in our community has been really helpful. So I've really enjoyed serving with you on both boards, on this and the Costco board. And thank you for everything you have done, not just for the organization, but for our community. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chuck. Director Buss.
So I have to say, sometimes I come to these meetings and it's been a long day, and I always appreciate that no matter what, you have asked like every question that I could possibly ever imagine on it. So then I'm like, this is great. It's like Cliff Notes. It's like you're like our like professor of the board packet. And it's huge because then I feel like, oh, okay, Doug's covered all those. Okay. So then I think I'm good. I can just move forward on this. But I really appreciate it because it's being someone who is also analytical, but not as super to detail. It's really important to know that you have partners on a board that are paying attention to literally every T and every I and all of that. So I really appreciate that. And then the same, having your experience with being on the planning commission and CASA is huge because there's a lot of stuff that, I really didn't know about, and you just have a ton of knowledge and I really appreciate that you go all the way and do the California Park and Rec, and you bring all that, and then you're telling us how people are saying we're so great, and I'm like, this is so nice that Doug goes and finds this out for us. Because I can't travel as much. My kids are like, where are you going to dinner? Why are you leaving? So it's really nice to have you dedicating so much time to this community. And I hope that people outside of this room realize how much you put into our whole community to make it better for us. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Director Roscoe.
Thank you, Doug. I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you so much for showing me what an exemplary leadership looks like on the board. It's been really wonderful to serve my first term and have you as chair because you've just been so like thorough and dedicated, and it's been really lovely. Like knowing that if I'm going to an event, I can pretty much count that you're going to be there as well. And so it's been such a nice experience to have with you alongside me. So thank you so much for all that you've done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Director Cusworth.
Well, first, I want to thank you for suggesting they make the video. That was really nice, and that will be something that we can have in our archives forever. If people want to go back and look and see what we did and just have a very entertaining 6 minutes. And so I'm glad that, that Shar enjoyed doing that because that was very entertaining and very nice. And you all were fantastic. I would think you were professional actors the way you did that. And then they've all mentioned your attention to detail, which we know. I know I said to Lisi one time, well, maybe she wouldn't want me to say this, but I mean, it's all just fun. I said, "Oh, Doug, you know, he's has such attention to detail and everything." She goes, "I'm sorry." So I thought that was funny. So I thought, well, she knows that. Another thing I've always appreciated about you, Doug, is that you're very professional. And even when we've had times, very rarely that we have disagreed on a point, but that happens, and that's wonderful in a board that we have different viewpoints. You're always extremely professional and very polite to other people's viewpoints, where sometimes on other boards that can get to name calling, people can be vindictive, but you've never been that way. We're always very professional. You lead a very solid meeting, and you've introduced us some new things. Like I'm really hoping, if things go the way I think that they might, that I will remember to say, do I say Madam Clerk of the Board to read this, or was it Madam Board? I was thinking of that as I came over, and I thought that was very nice to have that read ahead of time, and that was something that you thought of that we haven't done in the, 6 years that we've been here together. So again, you're noticing things that are going on, and as was mentioned before, I was very impressed that you ran for CARPD, that you're showing a lot of leadership in our state. And that bodes well for our district, that you are there finding out what's happening all over the state. You have intimate knowledge of what other, rec and parks are doing. You know what the leadership is. You're going to San Francisco, Sacramento, working with legislation. And I just really want to thank you for doing that. Thank you very much. So.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for the kind words, and thank you all for the kind words. I wasn't expecting, I thought this was going to be a review of the video and the presentation, which was excellent. Beyond whatever I could have imagined. I just kind of threw the idea out there, but that was fantastic. And I do like the fact that Shar caught you off guard, because then you didn't have too much time to think about it. You just kind of had to do it. But yeah, that was great. And, as I was going through the list, which we had to start with the list, of course, because you needed some material.
Yep.
So all in appropriate order. But it kind of prompted my thoughts on, the different things that I had done over the course of the year. And I don't want to read them all to scare off any potential future chairs of the board. But if they, didn't know what was coming, but with all these different, some of those things were mentioned, whether it's board meetings or going to the VCSDA, and thank you, Nellie, for trying to pick that up with the support of Raquel and Jim. It's been good to see that coming up. But, like, for example, doing that little filming intro for the music festival, things like that, you just kind of show up, well, okay, I didn't think I was going to have to do something like that, but you get thrown into things like that. All the different community events. Was it last week? I was singing down at Westlake Village at the holiday sing-along down there. All those things that like are in the fine print that you don't read, and that you kind of have to, step up and do some of those things. And a lot of these things we all participated in. But I just was looking at the list. I said, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much it took to be not only on the board, but the chair, of some of these things, which is probably just minuscule compared to some others. But I think from looking at this list and thinking about all the things that I was involved in. What's more important is what was accomplished by doing it. Whether it's, as I think our general manager can attest to, just being present sometimes is an accomplishment because you're out there, you're recognized, you're participating. But then in some of these where it's, either ad hoc committees with fellow board members or up in Sacramento, you're doing things that you actually can benefit the community as a result of that. And to me, that's the rewarding part, that you actually feel like you got, the bang for your buck. The time that you spent was actually worthwhile. But thank you for the kind words. And thank you to General Manager for putting our list together to start this off, for our whole team for putting that video together. But I think largely it's the staff that we have that actually make this even possible. We can do these things, whether it be building parks or offering programs. There was just a couple things in this list that I just wanted to highlight that were kind of special to me. I think maybe the number one is we're currently in negotiations with the city for acquiring this property. Nothing is said and done. We're still going through the process. At some point, hopefully, we'll be able to enter into escrow. But I can remember, this was years ago. We had three of us were on the board at the time, but I don't remember I don't know if they would remember, as we're going through our strategic planning, kind of our brainstorming session. It was at the McRae Ranch. And I remember asking if we could get the future of our administrative offices on the capital fund, to say, hey, it's not there and it should be. Let's make this a priority. And the reason I wanted to do that is because this district has been living a nomadic lifestyle of where's our next facility for this almost the entire 60 years. I mean, other than those first few years where they're at this building, kind of made full circle. And back when I was on staff, I went to two of those different buildings, one on Boardwalk and one on Wilbur. And so I know that the district offices has kind of moved around, so that we need to make this permanent. And so I'm just absolutely thrilled that this is kind of moving forward. But it's also it's a win for us, it's a win for the city, it's a win for the community, where we have the retention of this facility, but also a permanent home for the arts component of this as well. And so that was important to me. Another thing that kind of stood out was the 2-year memorandum of understanding with our staff, the SEIU Local 721. Not so much that we reached a memorandum of understanding, because we typically do every couple of years or so, but the part that really excited me was the deferred comp portion of that we were able to agree to. I can remember having to go through these discussions, like I said, my prior lifetime with the city of Glendale, and it was always hard to reach an agreement on that because you've got young staff, middle-aged staff, and older staff, and they think differently on what their future is. And to have this now set in place where we have a mechanism to kind of fund their future, whether they realize it or not, to me, that's huge. And they may not realize how beneficial it is for maybe 20 or 30 years from now. But I'm just thrilled that we were able to finally reach an agreement with that. And then another thing that was important to me was the community meetings, excuse me, that were held at the Conejo Creek West. I've had numerous people come to me and say how well those were run, how productive that they were, how appreciative they were that the Park District reaches out to the community. And in almost every case, they were astounded to know that we do this all the time at different facilities and that we reach out. And they were wanting to know, well, okay, so is everything settled yet? And I said, well, no, that's just a step in the process. And so they were just absolutely thrilled that the Park District makes that much of an effort to hear from the neighbors and the community. And that's a major location, but we do that even for our neighborhood parks. And so when I tell folks that, they're just very impressed and surprised, I think, because they don't experience that with any other development projects. It's just through the Park District. And then I think I was also going to mention some of our partner agencies that the board was involved with. The general manager already did that. But what came from that for me, and I know I've mentioned this before, was being able to testify to the State Assembly hearing committee on that. And to me, it wasn't so much oh, wow, I got to do this, but that I got to see what the process was like. And now I can see how hard and difficult it is to get bills out there, to get bills passed, to partner with an entity, in this case, our park district group, with an elected official with the state, and then trying to navigate that whole process. And all that just to try and benefit our community. Now, granted, it was something that was statewide, but you realize how many steps you have to take to help benefit your own community. And just to see how that process works was quite a learning process. And I don't know that I like to know how the sausage was made, but I did learn how the sausage was made. And so just the opportunity to be part of that and to, again, as I mentioned earlier, to make it successful, to go put forth those efforts and to make it successful. So, again, thank you for the great review. Thank you for putting this together for us. Thank you for the video and for your participation in it, whether that was willingly or not. Appreciate that. And we'll look forward to another year. And I know our next chair will do just as well because it's a well-run organization. So thank you for that review and again for the wonderful comments. Okay, with that, we will move on to the next item, which is items from the public. I have no cards. Do we have anybody in the wings online wishing to speak? Okay, we have none. Next is approval of the agenda. Are there any requested changes? And if not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that moves forward. Next is our consent calendar. We do have a full one. We've got the minutes, warrants, the norms, guidelines, and processes, a resolution for our meetings, and then also an amendment with the school district. Were there any wishes to pull any of those items from the consent calendar or any comments about them? Or if not, a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make that motion, but do we want to, are we approving everything in the consent calendar at one time, including the resolution?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I'm going to make the motion that we approve the consent calendar A, B, C, D, and E as
Thank you.
written.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. All right, that takes us to deferred matters, which we have none. Items for discussion, we also have none. So next is new items 9A. Madam Clerk, could you read that into the record for us, please?
Yes, item 9A, selection of chair and vice chair.
All right, I'm going to ask our general manager if he could just introduce this for us and maybe just a quick review of processes or anything else we need to be aware of as we take action.
Yeah, so it's the board's prerogative to select their chair and vice chair every year, and traditionally we've done that at the end of the year, so that the new chair, if there's a new chair, starts the new year. And it's really up to this board. I will point out attached, we actually maintain a record going back to 1963 of every single elected official and their status as a chair, vice chair, or board member. So if you had a chance to peruse that, you would be able to see our history, which we try to maintain our history. So with that, really, it's up to y'all to choose your next chair.
Okay. So were there any questions of the processes or the list? And if not, we can certainly entertain a nomination for chair. Director Huffer?
I would like to move the nomination of Director Cusworth to be chair for 2026.
Okay. We have a nomination for Director Cusworth.
Do we second it?
I don't think we second the nomination.
I nominate her as well.
Okay.
I don't know what it is.
Then we have
I
a
wasn't
second
sure.
nomination. Okay, there we go.
I'm nominating her as well.
Okay.
It's great.
Were there any other nominations from the board?
I'll move the nomination to be closed.
So closed they are. And with that, we will have a vote. All those in favor of Director Nellie Cussworth to be chair for 2026. Please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. We have a new chair. Congratulations.
You want to hit it one more time?
There we, with gusto.
Now you have to do that for the vice chair.
So, well, I didn't know that I was going to hit it for vice chair,
Yeah.
but I can. So I would like to open nominations for a vice chair. Director Nichols.
I would like to nominate Director Buss for vice chair.
Do we have any other nominations?
I will, if we're not seconding, then I will affirm the nomination.
Oh, affirm.
Okay, if there are no other nominations, I will close the nomination process. And all in favor of Director Mrs. Buss being the vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then Marissa Buss will now be the vice chair.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Vince me at Rotary.
Just warn the kids in advance. We'll just ease them into this gradually.
Well, the older one will be driving by then, so she really won't care.
That just means you're going to be a little bit more preoccupied.
Well, as long as I'm here, you'll probably be okay. But I don't know if I'm going to, I'm pretty how goes it, guys. So we'll see how this goes for the next year with me being in the driver's seat. So, and I appreciate the nomination. I got a text from, or maybe it was a phone call from Mr. Friedel this morning asking how many of my family would be coming. And I said, well, no one is coming. I hadn't really thought about that, but so then I asked my husband Harvey, I'll introduce them, and my daughter Anna, and it looks like the two grandkids bailed. So
Oh, and that's on tape.
they're not here. But I would like to note that the Nick's backpack is behind you. That was left at the house, so please take that home. I wasn't the one that took Nick home. It was somebody else that forgot the backpack. Anyway, moving along with the meeting, I'm excited for this next year and I'm excited to work with Director Buss and with all of you. And I'm sure that 2026 will be just as productive as 2025. And I enjoy working with all of you on the board and I thank you very much for your support. So moving along. Reports and announcements. Do we have any questions on our reports or announcements? No, then let's move on to our department reports, Parks Division.
Thank you, Chair Cussworth, members of the board. No report tonight. Just want to wish everyone Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, staff and board, and looking forward to 2026 and doing some great stuff in the community. So, but with that, I'm available for questions.
Director Hopper?
Not a question, but we do have a brief presentation, I guess it would be, for Andrew.
That is my 7-year-old date for Starlight Ball. It was her first year. And I danced better than this later, Chuck, because Chuck did harass me and make fun of me. But I warmed up a little bit. But yeah, probably the most dancing I've done since my wedding. So it's really, really fun because I had a great date. Just like my wedding, I had a great date. So thanks, Chuck.
Cute.
Thank you very much for that, Director Huffer. And that was very sweet that you did bring your daughter to that event. That was very cute. She was all dressed up and it was very, very sweet. Thank you. It's always nice when we can see each other's families. Moving along, Recreation Department.
Thank you, Director Cussworth and members of the board. I do not have a report. There's just been lots going on in recreation. I think you guys have been out there doing a bunch of stuff, and I believe there is no video of me tonight.
In management services, do we have Melissa Smith online? No? Well, I didn't know.
She's in Grenada.
Oh, well, she could have come online,
That's
even
true.
if she's
That's
on the
true.
cruise ship,
That's true.
right? I'm sure she paid for internet. Okay, so I just thought I should check. All righty, and General Manager, Mr. Friedel.
Yeah, Chair Cusworth, you're actually more insightful than I am. There's probably a decent chance she's actually watching the meeting because yeah, she's such an overachiever. Um, just really quick, LAFCO, they did come yesterday and took a tour, Kai and Andrea. So it's part of our municipal service review. So they're doing rec and park districts in Ventura County. So they're kind of looking at us. One of the questions they ask is, are you interested in any sphere of influence change? And I just said, perpetually, we have Sherwood and we have Newbury Park, and the only way in and out of Hidden Valley is through the Conejo Rec and Park District. And if you're at all going to put your kid in a sport, uh, participate in any kind of community event, activity, that kind of stuff, it's probably on a park property. So I think an argument can be made that there is service provided to those folks. So I think during this year, I might bring to the board the idea of, would we want to reach out to our supervisor and then eventually the homeowners in Hidden Valley to consider whether a sphere of influence change might be worth it. I have heard in the past there are individual home property owners in that area that aren't interested. So it's as much an analytical, is this good government question as it is political. So whether anything comes of that's a thing out there. It's, they come every so many years and just say, hey, are your boundaries the right boundaries? Anything you'd like to change? So we did have that meeting. So just give you guys that heads up. As Doug, I was going to say chair, but Doug Nichols mentioned, the development agreement and purchase and sale agreement are scheduled for the council meeting on January 13th and for our board on the 15th. So we are in the, knock on wood, final stages. Both agreements are now like attorneys are crossing the T's and dotting the I's. In your, I don't know if you have a folder or something, but yeah, you should have in your desk a copy of the Gratitude Circle nomination form. That's something we do every year. If you have any questions, of course, just ask, but we're going to look for your thoughts and ideas on who to recognize in May at the Gratitude Circle. And I would conclude with, it's been another year. I'm grateful to be here with you, this board and this organization, and love the content of the job, love the people I'm doing it with. So have a happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all those things. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you. And so we'll move on to our director's reports. Let's start down at the end with Director Huffer.
Thank you, Director Cusworth. Chair Cusworth, my apologies. Till I went through my calendar, I didn't think there was that much going on the last couple of weeks, but then I looked through my calendar and several of us were at the Conejo Open Space Foundation holiday party, which was right here in this room and was a really nice event. Had my meeting with General Manager Friedel. I think all of us or most of us were at the State of the City luncheon a week or so ago. I was not able to make the reorg that night, but you were there, right, Doug? So it was nice that the presentation that you made and the gift that you gave to David was sounded like it was greatly appreciated. So appreciate your being there and handling that. Doug and I were at the Costco board meeting on the 10th. The CSVP tax program is getting off the ground. We had an organization meeting on the 11th, and it's rather exciting because we have some 25 or 30 new tax preparers. Now, I'm not sure if they're all going to go through the whole process, but we've got a lot of new tax preparers, which will be really good. And we're in the process of contacting various agencies locally to make sure that, whether it's senior concerns or other Safe Passage and other organizations, make sure that they're aware of the services that CSVP provides for our community. And then a number of us were at the Silver Starlight Ball, which is always a fun event, and it's always fun to see the young adults having a great time. And I think it's the same band that's been doing this practically forever, and they have a great time. I think they have as much fun as the participants at the ball do. So it was a very fun evening. So that's my report.
Director Buss?
Okay, so I was at quite a few of those things as well, and I think the only one that you missed was the State of the City we were all at.
Yeah.
Luncheon. Did you say that one?
I
Oh,
did.
I missed it.
Can we have that read back?
Yeah, can you write that back? Yeah. But yeah, so I pretty much the same things and then same old for me. I could update you on the flag football, record as well as the basketball team record right now, but I will save you all. So
my
I'll
gosh.
just say Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and Happy New Year's.
So no soccer updates. Is that all over now? The kids in flag football?
We are in flag football and basketball right now, and all stars. Actually, we did have a soccer tournament in Santa Clarita. You are correct. And we lost 2 and won 1. Liv won her almost one basket. They only had 5 players for their basketball game because everyone was at the soccer tournament. So, there's that whole thing. And then flag football has been going very well. And then I just got, asked by a club team to put the 16U team back together for a scrimmage. So I said I would do a little practice and scrimmage. That'll be the beginning of January. I'll let you know. They're quite a bit younger, but I think we can take them, even though they play club and did get second in the division. Might be a little rough.
Well, I thought it was interesting because at the State of the City, they mentioned that they're just starting flag football out here
Yeah.
for girls. And we were talking to our daughter in Seattle, and her daughters are now in flag football. So this seems to be a national trend.
Yeah, it's huge. And it's great because it's in the fall when you have soccer and basketball are the same season in high school. It's winter. So if you want to be a triathlon or a triathlete, you need, the other sport. So, but yeah, it's super fun. I went to my first, it's very different than football though. The rules are totally different. And I did not realize that. And I'm like, why are we not? Yeah, they can't even run with the ball. They can't do running plays in the sports academy league. It's interesting. So I'm hoping that in high school, they're allowed to do that. But yeah, it's very different. You get like 4 downs to get past the line. And then if you get past that line, then you have 3 downs to get a touchdown. So I was like, wow, this is, yeah, I had no idea. I just assumed they were going to be playing football with flags, but a little different.
Okay, well, we're moving along with all these new sports in our Conejo
you
Valley
updated.
that we're. Okay, so now I guess we'll have you go next, Director Nichols. You don't get the last word anymore.
Which reminds me, I just need to make one point of clarification regarding my wife's comment. We argue over comma placement.
Oh,
She's a teacher.
Just, I mean, she is an English major and a teacher.
Yeah.
that is an argument that's never happened in my
No.
house. Ever. And never.
So it sounds like you were made for each other.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we're still married after 46 years, so I guess we get over those discrepancies. But makes for some good conversation about English. Number of these items have been mentioned as far as activities, although my wife and I did go to the Safe Passage gift event at the Conejo Community Center on December 5th. We brought our 2 youngest grandkids, and they enjoyed some of the crafts and activities along with just seeing what the whole process was about. It was a good opportunity for them. And then we did the open space party that same night. And then on December 7th, did the sing-along in Westlake Village. And then on the 9th, did the State of the City luncheon, and then also the reorg meeting. And our general manager was kind enough to bring along a very nice photo of Wildwood Park, which former Mayor Newman was much appreciative of. And then we had the Costco board meeting on the 10th, the Starlight Ball on the 13th. And then I had a one-on-one with Jim on the 15th. And I'm exhausted. And then in between that, I forget what date it was at this point, we had a soccer weekend with our 8-year-old with 3 games on Saturday and 2 on Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
And I was tired just watching. But it's interesting to see at that age level how you can kind of see the energy just kind of gradually dissipates through the day and just, it's just kind of barely hanging on. But they had fun. And then all of them are at the school Christmas program tonight, so I had to split directions. But I snuck in and watched the rehearsal yesterday morning, so I got it covered. So don't tell anybody. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Director Orozco.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think everybody pretty much covered it. All of the events. I went to the Conejo Open Space Foundation holiday party, the State of the City. I did do the Safe Passage gift giveaway, but I attended the one in Casa Conejo. And I just want to say thank you so much to CRPD staff for pairing up with Safe Passage. It was a really fun event to attend for the second year in a row. And then I was at the Silver Starlight Ball later that evening. And I just would like to thank my fellow board members for joining me in a photo. I know, we're always together and taking photos, and it's such an honor to be serving with you guys. And it was nice to have a little photo despite the reluctancy. So thank you for entertaining me.
Thank you. So I was at many of those events. I was also at the McCrae Ranch Open House where Tom Hare was Santa Claus. So he's, I guess the Hollywood Storage is no longer doing it, so he is transferred and he was
Oh,
over at Santa
okay.
Claus, and that was a very nice event. And then I was running errands today and I got the notice from Patty Ham about the senior band over at the Goebel Center. So I stopped in and I was so glad that I went. I really enjoyed it. And then my daughter will laugh, but now she cries as much as I do. When the kids were growing up, if there was a marching band or anything that my kids were involved with and I saw it in another thing, I would just, tear up, or at movies, and they would make fun of me all the time, but they do it as much as I do. But I was there watching the senior band and thinking about what it was like when they were in high school, and thinking about my kids when they were in high school and junior high, and all the piano recitals that I went to. And I thought, oh, and then there's still a place for these men to, still be playing their instruments. And I mean, they were good. They don't have any women, Anna. So if you want to do trumpet in several years, you could probably. You won't think of it, you will be a senior someday. So they do have a senior band. But I just thoroughly enjoyed that, and it kind of just showed me the opportunities that our community keeps offering to all ages. And, as we're talking about, kids in sports and different things and therapeutics, that we have something for everybody here in this community. And it was very, very heartwarming to be at that. Also, I was glad that LAFCO came. I've been thinking a lot about LAFCO, and at the last couple of conferences, I've gone to the LAFCO meetings. I've talked to the people talking about LAFCO. I've talked to the attorneys on LAFCO. I've been looking at websites on LAFCO, have talked to Jim about LAFCO. So I'm very interested that LAFCO did come and that we are talking about it. And I don't know if the councilman from Simi, Reckham Park, called any of you, but he called me and we talked about LAFCO. So there was a lot of LAFCO in the air. And I was, though, particularly glad that I had both the websites, so that when these kind of issues come up, it's something that we don't always think about. And I was glad that at VCSDA, we have a local LAFCO rep, and that we have our local LAFCO representatives that we can go to, because you think, what do we need them for? Well, sometimes you do. So thank you. I'm glad that you had that. So I wanted to comment on that. So now, do we have any requests for status appointments, reports and items for subsequent agendas? Yes, Director Huffer.
Yes, I know that this is something that we go through every year as sort of a routine matter, but at the most recent Kiwanis breakfast meeting, we had a presentation from Andrea Gallagher from Senior Concerns, and she was pointing out that, and I believe it's effective in 2026, that the county is washing their hands of any kind of funding for basically any of the lunch or other food programs in the county. And I know in the past, we provide some funding, but the county provides the bulk of the funding. And Andrea seemed to feel that eventually someone may, they're submitting an RFP to find an agency that might take over what the county has been doing in terms of those programs, but she's not
Oh.
optimistic that it's going to be sooner rather than later. So I'm just wondering if we need to have a discussion somewhere along the way as to if and how we would continue funding the program if we have to do the whole thing ourselves.
You want to
Okay.
go? Yeah, we're both familiar with it. You want to go or?
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, I'll say that Julie has been very, very on top of this, and she works actually and is on some committees with Andrea. Myself, Tim, and Julie will be at and attending a meeting. I want to say it's next week or the week after with the county. But my understanding of it is that our funds are not currently going away. They're being transferred from the county to the state. And that's where we'll be doing it for the second year of our term. But after that, we're kind of like trying to figure out what's going to happen.
Okay, so there's no immediate threat to our funding on that.
I don't believe
So
so.
Andrea's concern was that going to the state and it may just sort of disappear into a black hole up there, so.
That's a reasonable fear.
It's a reasonable
That's a
fear.
reasonable fear. So that
Yeah,
is
that would
something
work.
we're paying attention to and trying to understand more about.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And that, when you talked about, senior concerns, I was thinking about, they have their big annual ball, but the Community Conscience also has a big annual ball, and we should mention that Director Huffer is going to be the king of the Mardi Gras ball. Yeah. And so, very well deserved. And I think I should also mention that if you go on the website for the Mardi Gras, that Director Marissa Buss and her husband are the poster childs of coming to have fun. Have you seen that picture?
No.
Well, you need to go onto the Mardi Gras website, and there is you, and I assume that's your husband, Danny, sitting next to you. So yes, you're the poster children for come and have a good time at the Mardi Gras ball. So take a look at that. You look great. Okay, so do we have any items from the public? No? So we're going to be having an executive closed session.
For a closed session. No, that you'll do that in January.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to get all of your, I was planning to get all of your, reviews today for Jim.
Oh, they could collect if you want to hand them to her, that's one thing, but we don't even have it listed. You know, we have to have a safe harbor listed on the agenda with all the right language. I don't even think we have that on there.
No, we don't. So I
Yeah.
was wondering about it.
Right, yeah, my plan was, yeah, I wasn't expecting you guys to do that because we're trying to turn this into more of a
Okay.
celebratory short.
No, I
meeting.
understand.
Yeah.
So we're not going to have, so just to clarify, since this was my deal, at the next meeting in January, bring me your filled out forms. We will have a closed session to discuss. I wanted to give one form to Jim, so then at the next meeting, I guess we'll have another closed session to discuss with you so that I have some time to, put everything together with our thoughts. Okay. So we're going to change that. So if there's no other items, I'm going to adjourn this meeting because I see we have food. And I did tell my family we were having food. So I was very glad that we showed up with some food. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.